Hello, I'm going to be on the boundaries. This is news and views for round 20. We got plenty to get through. As always, got Nick to my right. How are you, mate?
I'm great, Josh. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. And Vinay on my left. How are you, buddy?
I'm very good, Josh. We've got plenty of news and plenty of views that the people at home can use. So let's get right into them as soon as we can.
You've been working on that one,
Some of your best work, Vinay. I love it.
Let's jump into the ladder, boys. Not
Straight
much
to the
has
ladder.
changed, but the top position
ladder
has changed.
Hawthorn back on top. Bit of a percentage booster against Western Bulldogs on the weekend.
Absolutely, they were clinical, just hitting their straps at the right time. The Hawks.
We've got third versus fourth this week. Geelong versus Fremantle. That's a huge, huge game. We'll discuss that in the match preview show.
Yeah, replay of the qualifying final of an A where Fremantle got up by 28 points. Not many people expected them to get
And
up.
it was at Simmons, wasn't it?
It was at Simmons Stadium where this week's game is played.
Yes.
So must be a little bit of doubt in their mind there.
A return to the seam of the crime.
None at all, actually. I'm very confident, boys. Port Adelaide in fifth spot. They're hanging on because North Melbourne, of course, had the loss to Geelong.
Well, North Melbourne, we go into the next six. We got North Melbourne, Essendon, Collingwood, Gold Coast, Adelaide.
4 teams on 40 points there. Percentage could prove a problem for Gold Coast there, you'd think.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I tell you what, Vinay won't agree with me. I would have loved to see Adelaide win this week because that would have, 5 teams on 40 points heading into the finals.
I think Adelaide's on 40 points too because they could have gone
Adelaide are on
to
40?
sixth.
Adelaide are on 40, yes.
They could have gone to 6th if they had
I'm
won.
quite sure they are, yes. And West Coast, Richmond,
Don't know about
and
that. Bullshit.
West Coast and Richmond are on 36.
they're on
32.
32. And then there's another club.
I'm telling you, boys,
Adelaide
Adelaide are on 36.
Yeah, I think Nick's right, actually, yeah.
Good preparation by
I
us.
think he's
always
right,
am.
yeah. He is right.
I've got it
Collingwood is also on 36.
I've got it written down in front of me and they question my preparation. And
Collingwood's on 40. Collingwood's on 40, correct.
moving down into the bottom 6, Carlton, Western Bulldogs and Brisbane on 24 points. All a big chance to slip into the bottom 4. Brisbane, of course, with a big win over Melbourne, have jumped up. Big chance to come out of the bottom 4. And down the bottom of the ladder, GWS, Melbourne and St.Kilda all on 16 points there.
Yeah, it's a toss-up between those 3 bottom teams who gets a wooden spoon. I think St Kilda may just stay there. I think they've got a couple of tough games still to come, so we'll have to wait and see.
Moving into the Coleman medal, and the race is hotting up, boys. Lance Franklin...
Hotting up,
Vinay.
Heating up, I think he means. But
I think it's both.
All right.
Lance Franklin, of course, didn't play this week. No goals for him, in case you didn't catch that. Schultz, only the one. Tommy Hawkins, 3 goals, boys.
I knew that was coming.
Well, of course it is.
Luke Bruce also on 46, as is Jack Rewell. So
Let's not forget Jared Rufford. He kicked 6 and he's making a late...
He's coming hard.
He's coming really hard. He's making a late kind of charge for that
charge
charge.
there.
Yeah.
Moving into our first topic of the week, and it's the roof at Etihad Stadium. Sometimes I wonder why they have a roof, because they leave it open and the players cannot see. That was, from all reports, the worst game of football we've seen in a very long time.
Yeah.
And there's been some horrible clips they've shown.
Well, let's just remind the viewers which game we are talking about here.
Brisbane versus Melbourne,
Yes.
sorry. And players going for what is, a regulation marking contest. And they've both just hit each other. They've gone completely the wrong way, and the ball's just bounced without anybody touching it.
It's one of the rare stadiums in the world where it goes north to south.
Yep.
So that sun is very dead centre in the middle of your eyes. So
Tell you what, people have had a go at Brad Scott for sooking about this in the past, but that was about raining, on a day they left it open. But why not just close it?
yeah, I know it's an open game and you've got open conditions and play in all conditions, but I don't understand if you got a roof.
Do they actually give a reason? Does the AFL actually give a reason for why they don't close the roof? Is there?
I think there's a
It's a
decision.
nice day.
I think there's a decision a certain amount of time before the game.
Yep.
They'll check the temperature or the humidity,
The
or
radar.
whatever it was that they check. They make the decision then, and they stick with that for the game. But it's sort of double standards when in some games, the roof will be closed at Etihad Stadium. I just don't get it.
I think it makes the ground unique. You've got a roof. You play in closed conditions where conditions are perfect every time you play there.
Yeah.
And I just think close the roof. End of story.
Well, that's what you say. I
End
think
the
you
debate. No one's going to be complaining that the roof is closed.
No.
People will complain if the roof is open because you're subject to all kinds of temperature things. And
Well,
weather
I know
things.
where I sit at Etihad and the roof's open when I go to an Essendon game.
Yep.
Which very rarely happens, but when it does happen, it's very annoying where I sit in the lower levels because the sun's right.
The sun's
in your eyes.
right in your eyes. It'll
You
cook
can't
you as well.
can't
yeah.
see the opposite side of the ground,
Yep.
and it's just a pain in the backside, really.
Anyway, AFL. If you're listening, I'm sure you watch the show. Andrew Demetrio.
I think it's actually
Dylan
Etihad
McLaughlin
Stadium.
Probably still watches the show.
It's Etihad Stadium.
It's Etihad Stadium, is it?
Yeah.
I see the guy, the balding guy who Brad Scott had a go at. He always comes out and checks the grass before the game and has an inspection. Anyway, moving on to our next topic, it's staging, which not something we like to see in our hard-fought game, which is AFL.
Yeah, well, Lindsay Thomas was the biggest one on the weekend, and I cannot believe the MRP did not sanction him because their reasoning was there was contact there. Now, James Kelly touched you as hard as I touched.
So again, let's try and paint the picture of what happened.
Can we start with this? It's a free kick, all right?
Yes.
Kelly has had hands in the back. That's a free kick. We know that rule. It's been here for quite a few years now. Hands in the back. Whether it's a push in the back, that's a grey area. There's definitely hands in the back there. Kelly can't complain about whether or not the free kick's been given away and Lindsay Thomas had a shot at goal. What Lindsay Thomas has done, he has milked it for every last drop of milk it is worth. He has rocketed off the ground.
He's been shot out of a cannonball.
He had 2 feet on the ground at the time that the hands were in the back, and he has jumped a metre in the air. He's almost done a bloody forward somersault. It was ridiculous. It was absurd when it happened.
Absolutely. I mean, I didn't see the game at the time. I saw none of the game, but I was following on Twitter a little bit and saw that...
Blew up, did it?
Yeah, blew up.
Exploded the Twitter sphere.
Lindsay Thomas, you're a disgrace, and all of the like, and managed to catch a...
Let's not be too harsh. Yeah, let's not be too harsh. I mean,
no, but he's been...
He is staged, and it's something that's worth a penalty. Yes, but...
It's something that he's done multiple times in his
But let's
career.
also not forget that Lindsay Thomas, he still is an AFL player. And if I had to count the number of times he's done something courageous... or he's gone back with the flight or he's taken a strong mark. He's a tough customer, Lindsay Thomas. I don't agree with the fact that he's, a sook that plays for free kicks. I've seen him do his fair share of courageous acts.
I strongly disagree on that.
All right, okay, but I've definitely seen him do his fair share of courageous acts. And I think he's a very strong-willed individual. It wasn't too long ago that he was really had a go at for having the worst set shot routine in the entire AFL.
Yep.
And he was on the verge of being dropped, but he turned that around to becoming one of the most accurate small forwards in the entire game.
Absolutely. Yep.
And he's a good contested mark, so obviously he doesn't mind a bit of, rough and tumble. But I think staging, yes, he should have been penalised, but I don't want to see this get blown out of proportion and say he's a weak player or he's a soft player or he's a sook. Because soccer players just do this week in, week out, from what I see.
Yeah.
But, soccer fans don't start pointing them out and going, he's a sook, he's weak.
On the point you say that he's a very good contested mark, Brad Scott made the point in his press conference where he said he obviously didn't like what Lindsay Thomas has done, and he observed that it's not something he wants to see his players doing. He's also said he's talked to him about it in the past, and he said to Lindsay, if you keep doing this, umpires will assume you're staging every single time you earn a free kick, and then you won't get any. He obviously doesn't like it, and he's saying, just mark the footy. Lindsay Thomas was in a position to get 2 hands on that footy, and he's opted to commit to trying to exaggerate the free kick.
It's definitely something that shouldn't be encouraged.
Which he would have got
definitely,
anyway. Anyway,
it's not good to see.
It wasn't the only incident on the weekend as well. I mean, on Friday night, Adam Goods also late in the last quarter threw his hands back and made it seem like he was being held much more than what he was.
I think most players are a culprit of it at some stage or another. But it's just some of these really isolated incidents where the players don't really, let's say, cover all bases as well as they should have. Lindsay Thomas didn't really do much to hide his staging, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But it's not good for the game. I don't think you're right.
There was an absolute sitter Lindsay Thomas missed later in the game. You should have heard the roar when he missed that. I think he put it out on the full, and it sounded like he kicked a goal, and the North Melbourne fans were cheering. That's how that was. It was ridiculous.
But I don't think either incidents had an impact on the game. Both resulted in goals, but I don't think either had an impact on the game. But it's just poor to see. I think
it's not good to see.
Yeah, it's just.
Well, you could probably make a blooper reel out of all of it. Do you remember the Jack Rewalt one?
Yeah,
where he's dived forward and he said push in the back, and they've shown the replay and there's no one standing behind him. Yeah. And he's just sort of jumped forward.
Yep.
There's a Jack Darling one, that's a pretty humorous one.
Leroy Jenner obviously.
Yeah, there are heaps of
first player to be fined, I think it was.
Worth a laugh if you're bored at home. Yeah.
Anyway, moving on, boys. There's something I'm not very happy about this week.
Here we go, Geelong related.
Yep.
Bugger off, you blokes. We've got a couple of topics.
Having said bugger off, it's about a Geelong.
Just giving him a bit of
stick. Couple of topics rolled into one this week. Match review panel, eligibility for the Brownlow with suspensions, and more specifically, Steve Johnson, once again, a very, very silly act from him.
It was very silly, very minor.
Yep. But it's something he's done before. He's got suspended for this before.
Yep.
In this case, he's been charged with misconduct. He's got a 1-week suspension, impacted by bad record. He's kneed a guy in the chest, Scott Thompson, I think it was.
Yeah.
But I think there was one with Nathan Jones, very similar, last season. He's done the exact same thing. Got suspended for that one as well.
This is what I don't like about the MRP. Yeah. I mean, you've got demerit points and all that kind of stuff. I don't care how hurt the player is. You suspend a player on merit of the charge.
Exactly. Yeah. This is one big point I'm very strong about.
I mean, if he had no points whatsoever, he would not be missing this week.
It's a very basic way to analyse it, but I'm going to say we've got a very simple very simple concept in the Australian justice system. You cannot be tried for the same crime twice. And I think it should be the same in this kind of justice system where you're always punished for your previous offence.
Yeah.
You're constantly, like, it's...
No, I think there is a distinction to be drawn there. I think
but it's a very basic comparison.
The Australian legal system is such that if you've murdered one person, you've been found guilty, you can't come out of jail and then be tried again for the murder of that exact same person.
Yeah.
But the way they're doing it now is sort of like a recidivist way, where if you've need someone in the past and then you need someone again...
Yeah.
Then you're penalised. But you're not being tried for the same crime, if you know what I mean.
I'd want to make a distinction. If there's things like maybe a Barry Hall whack or the Tyrone Vickery thing, things that would sort of more on purpose. But then there's sometimes when there's like an accidental head-high bump. Nathan Fyfe can talk to you about that. If he then later on in that season gets carryover points because of an accidental bump, which could have gone either way. You know, I guess it's blurring the lines between the inconsistency of the match review panel.
This is the thing. Nathan Fyfe has already got demerit points hanging over his head because he has carryover points from that accidental head-high bump earlier in the year.
But I'd hate to see him miss a final. Like, if he goes out and does something silly, a once-off he does something silly, which wouldn't usually give you a suspension. I'd hate for him to miss a final because of this accidental bump earlier in the season, and the points are adding on to that.
What happens is it brings inconsistency, and this is where fans get frustrated. Yeah. And the players are getting frustrated. This is why I'm so strong on you should suspend on merit. Get rid of these points.
Yeah, that's the point I think I agree with.
On the merit of the charge.
Yeah. On Stevie J, I think he plays with his heart on his sleeve, and that shows at times. And sometimes he might get unlucky. Like you said, this incident, if he didn't have carryover points or whatever it was, a bad record,
he wouldn't be suspended.
He probably wouldn't be.
I think there's things like
extremely low impact, very, very. There's dropping the knee, and then there's sort of just he seemed to be bending. He's just
going to put his weight on the guy. I think there's things like eye gouging, choking with Brown, like king hits and stuff like that we see every so often. Those things should be assessed. This has happened multiple times. This player needs to cut it out.
Yeah, what I don't understand is that Steve Johnson's gotten 1 week for this. He's done no harm at all to Scott Thompson.
Yeah.
Reece Conca's got 2 weeks, 1 more week for essentially
a deliberate
chasing someone off the ground. This was not even during play, running off the ground and elbowing him in the back of the head. That's something that could have seriously.
Like if he does that outside the ground, he's going to court.
Yes, he's going to court.
Whereas Steve Johnson, if he puts his weight into somebody to intimidate them or whatever he was trying to do,
it's a very silly thing. Yeah, it's a very silly thing.
In combat sports like MMA, UFC, you're not allowed to elbow someone in the back of the head.
Yes, because that's so dangerous.
Exactly.
That's a combat sport. You're not allowed to do that.
Exactly right. That's a combat sport that you're not allowed to do that.
And this is a sport where the objective is to hurt your opponent.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's gotten 2 weeks. He's gotten 1 more than a man who's literally just sort of. I'm refused to say that he dropped the knee. He more or less just went down and like you said, Nick, put his weight on him.
Yeah.
And he's my goodness.
On our point before, I just want to make clear my stance on this. It's like if there's things that are deliberate, serious acts, like we mentioned, like with the choking and the eye gouging and stuff like that, they need to cut it out. They can't keep getting away with it. Getting a fresh slate every single time if it's the first incident.
Yep.
But I think that should be isolated, and incidents like this should be separated, and they should be judged on their merit, as we've said.
It is quite divisive, boys, with the Brownlow race.
The Brownlow.
How is this affected by that?
Well, obviously Nathan Fyfe, I think he's going to end up with the most votes. I mean, we'll speak about it in Beyond the Boundary.
Well, Steve Johnson's another one right up the top who could be second or third, whatever.
Absolutely, but
I think Fyfe will win it, to be honest.
Tom Rockcliffe as well has had a brilliant year. But Nathan Fyfe went into, I guess you could say, beast mode on Thursday night against the Blues in the last quarter.
We had 14 contested possessions or something.
I think so. It was just
Well, what's our stance on this? If a player gets rubbed out, and we all know if you get rubbed out, you're ineligible for the Brownlow, the highest award in our game. Should this best and fairest, the highest individual award, should this best and fairest system just be best? Should we just have an award for the best player? Because Nathan Fyfe, this is an accidental bump. Like, he might go his entire career, after having a season where he was the best performing player, he might go his entire career without winning that award because of this inconsistency in the match review panel.
I think we should keep the best and fairest, but there should be some leeway when it's clearly an accidental incident.
If it was reckless, that's different to intentional.
Maybe similar to the distinction I was making before. Maybe if it's one of those incidents that is, complete misconduct, not in general play whatsoever, that thing should make you ineligible.
I just think it's silly, to be honest. I just think it's silly. I understand the best and fairest concept, but I just think it's silly that if a player's leading the Brownlow votes, that he doesn't get it, and then that someone else would, because we're in a situation this year where could be likely that first and second have both been rubbed out.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, whoever does win the Brownlow this year, everyone will be saying, like, not only if it's not Ablett, not only will they be saying he didn't deserve it, it was Ablett who deserved it that season. They'll also be saying, if it wasn't Ablett, then Fife deserved it. So the person who wins the Brownlow, they'll just be completely discounted by most fans, saying, "Oh, you know, it was a technicality that he won it." I don't think it's a good thing to have.
This is why I like the AFL MVP, the players MVP, much more.
Yeah.
And the coach is more accurate. It tends to be much better. Yeah. But we won't dwell on that for too long, boys.
Yeah, but it's certainly a massive talking point, and I think. Yeah, we summed it up pretty well. Yeah. Fife's going to end up with the most votes if he keeps going the way he's going.
I'm sure Joel Sarwood will thank him in his victory speech.
There it is.
Oh, had to come, didn't it?
All right, boys, that wraps up another episode of News and Views.
Definitely.
Enjoyed it again.
Yep.
Make sure you tune into Beyond the Boundary. We got plenty of talk in there.
Massive
link for that at the end.
Yeah,
the finals race is heating up. We're not just saying that as, a promo kind of thing. It's hotting up. That's not even a promo kind of thing. It is actually, there is about, 6 different clubs that could all finish in the 8 at the moment.
I'll tell you something that is a promo. 2 things this week. Helps us out a heap if you hit that like button. I kid you not, it helps us out a heap. Please hit that like button. Vinay wants you to. Josh wants you to.
Takes 0.5 of a second.
Just click it right now. You've clicked it. Brilliant. Thank you very much. And also, if you've got a friend who's into footy, recommend Beyond the Boundary. Say, check it out. Check out your team's match preview. We would love. We put so much work into the show. We'd love for more people to see it each week.
We call it as we say it. So make sure you tune in. It's just we love it. So.
And thanks to you, the viewer, for tuning in each week. We appreciate your support.
Definitely.
All right, boys. Looking forward to the round of footy. We'll see you next week.